God, you making me better. You making me better. And you choose to do it however, whenever, wherever. God, you making me better. You making me.
Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Simply Set Apart. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you missed last week, just know that the heart behind this channel is really to encourage people who are desiring to live a set-apart life. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today, so if y'all ready, let's jump right in. So my mom is seriously one of the most amazing people I know. Me and my sister joke all the time that our mom is a rider, but she seriously is. She is so strong, she's so resilient. She loves to laugh, she has a beautiful personality, and she has a smile that is just completely unforgettable. Like if you saw her smile, you would know, like, yep, that's your mama. She is just an amazing person. I love my mom so much. So shortly after I was born, my mom was diagnosed with severe progressive multiple sclerosis. Now, multiple sclerosis looks different for different people, but for my mom, it has looked like her rapidly and progressively losing her physical functioning. So for a very long time, my mom has needed full-time, around-the-clock care. Very early on, my family decided that that was something that we would do, that we would always keep her home, that we would always care for her at home. So I've always been a huge part of my mom's care. During my childhood and kind of even into my early teens, I really resented the whole situation with my mom. I had friends with moms that would go to the mall with them, that would take them to do things, that they could have like chats with, and I just felt like I didn't have that in my mom because she was so consumed by her disease. And then also I really resented the responsibility of caring for my mom. While other kids were out playing and doing all this and doing all that, you know, I had a responsibility to care for my mom. And it was never a question, it was always, this is what I have to do. And I really resented God for that, and I really even resented my mom. But it wasn't until my later teens that I realized that caring for my mom was not the problem or the burden that I thought it was, that it was actually God's mercy over my life. Not only was that responsibility God's mercy, but it was a necessary part of God shaping and forming me into the person that He created me to be. I can't even say how much I've benefited from caring for my mom over all these years. I've learned so much responsibility, I've learned how to serve, and I've really become, like I said, the person that I am because of that situation. Today, I am fully convinced that taking care of my mom was and still is an important part of my process. It is exactly what God is using and He has used to shape me and prepare me for my destiny. So the main point I want to make today, and if you don't hear anything else, hear this, write it down, put it in your phone, stick it somewhere, it's important. Our God is a God of process and preparation. I'm going to say it again. Our God is a God of process and preparation. My godbrother is a star athlete. He is an incredible football player. I get to go on Friday nights and sit in the stands and cheer for him. Yay, number 50. And I get to see like the fruit of all of his labor that he puts in. But what I don't get to see is that before the season, he spends days, months, weeks in preparation. He conditions his body. He watches what he eats. He's in the gym lifting weights, getting up early. All of this work goes into the purpose that he has of being an amazing football player. We all have dreams, we all have promises that God has given us, callings that He's placed on our lives, but it's really important to know that God never just sends us right out into the promise. He never sends us right out into our purpose. He always takes us through a season of preparation. I call it a process of preparation. Just like my brother's conditioning, the seasons of preparation are often very, very painful. They're often lonely. They can be kind of desolate. We call them sometimes a wilderness season. Now we know that these wilderness seasons aren't in vain. They're very necessary to our lives. They're very necessary for getting us to where God is trying to take us. And not only that, they have a beauty that is absolutely unparalleled by any season that we will ever experience. So in the Bible, the most powerful picture of a wilderness season is the children of Israel in the book of Exodus. I feel really bad for the children of Israel sometimes. I feel like we're always kind of like, oh, those stupid children of Israel, like, why did they make so many mistakes? And why did they screw up all the time? Like, they should have known better. We kind of look at them through that lens. But the reality is that the children of Israel really reflect the condition of the human heart. So we all know that God delivered the children of Israel out of slavery in Egypt, and he brought them into a land that he had promised them. But before he brought them into that promised land, he made them spend some time in the wilderness. And he didn't do that to torment them. He did that so that they could get to know him. Even Moses said to Pharaoh while he was pleading for their release, he said, "Let my people go so that they can go and worship their God in the wilderness." So that was always a part of God's plan. And that wilderness season was so purposeful and it was so intentional. The Bible says that while they were in the wilderness, God was with them. His presence was so strong. He was with them in a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. He never left them. He brought them out into the wilderness so that they could experience an intimacy with him that would sustain them once they got into the promised land. And not only sustain them, but sustain their children and their children's children and their children's children's children. Now we know that the children of Israel missed it. They took what was supposed to be an 11-day journey, historians say, and turned it into a 40-year time of just wandering, of going nowhere. And we know that most of them died and only 2 of them actually made it into the promised land. By rejecting the necessary process and refusing to trust God in the wilderness season, they forfeited what God had ordained for them. They forfeited their promised land. Now the reality is, we are not unlike the children of Israel ourselves, and we too can miss it. We too can wander for years, but that's not what God has for us. That's not what he wants for us. So today I want to offer 2 very practical tips for trusting the God of process and preparation. Okay, so my first tip for trusting the God of process and preparation is to realize that faith is not a once and for all thing. I love the story of the encounter that Jesus has with this man, and I don't remember the exact scenario, but I remember the words of the man, and those words always stick with me. The man has a lot of faith, and Jesus commends the man for his faith. And then he goes on to say, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." So God has showed me that we're always in the tension of believing God, of trusting God, but being deficient in our faith, being deficient in our ability to trust God. So don't be afraid to reaffirm and reestablish your faith day by day, or even moment by moment if you need to. I heard it said that trust ain't trust until it's hard to trust. And that makes a whole lot of sense. It is so easy to trust God and to have faith when we're seeing the promises fulfilled, when we're walking in the fullness of our call. But when we are in that wilderness season, when we're in those lonely, desolate places, it's a whole nother ball game. When we're going through that uncomfortable process, that's when we need to choose to trust. That's when we need to command our soul. So in the last video, I spoke about declarations, about how powerful those little 5 to 10 word statements have been in reorientating my heart to Christ and reminding me of the truth. So one declaration that I have to really just speak to my own self about trust and to reaffirm my faith is this: God, your leadership is perfect. Lord, your leadership is perfect. You know just what you're doing. When my heart says, that's really never going to come to pass, that thing that God promised you, or you're never really going to get to that call, you're just going to live a normal life, or God really doesn't have a plan, your life is just going to be determined by chance. I have to tell my heart, I have to tell myself, no, God's leadership is perfect. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I'm going to trust him. So like I said before, don't be afraid to reaffirm your faith. Don't be afraid to talk to yourself. Don't be afraid to tell yourself, I will believe, I will trust in the Lord. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care what's happening or what's not happening. I know that this season that I'm in right now, as painful as it may be, it has purpose and it is ordained by God. So tip number 2 for trusting the God of process and preparation is to lean into the process. So the temptation in life's uncomfortable, painful, transitional seasons is kind of just to grit our teeth and bear it, just until we can make it into the promised season. I'm learning though that this is one of the worst things that I can do. Mainly because God is so stinking intentional, and every moment of every season has so much purpose. So whether it's something that I'm supposed to learn or things that I'm supposed to do, every moment of every season has purpose. So I want to encourage you to lean into your process, make the most out of it. Ask God, what are you trying to do in me and through me? and know that your process is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. I want you to hear that. The process is doing what it's supposed to do to make room for your call, to make room for the promise, and to bring you into what God has for you. James chapter 1 and 4 says, "Let patience have her perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing." So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really pray that was a blessing. I pray that you're encouraged. As always, please rock the comment section below. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, prayer requests. I would love to be praying for you. Until next time, guys, stay encouraged and stay focused because we got work to do. Grace and peace.
Passion for the king.